Hear Me See Me podcast is sponsored by Zenoti, the #1 cloud software for salons and spas. Because when people feel good, they find their greatness. I am Stuart Roberts, and I'm really excited to introduce my new podcast, Hear Me See Me. It's just over 5 years ago, I did something that changed my life. What it did, more than I could have ever realised, it helped me. I have met some absolutely amazing people. Some of the people that work in some of these places, many of them are volunteers, but some of them, it is their job. I'd had this idea after being inspired by a guy in America I'd seen cutting hair on the streets and seeing the difference it made to the guys who were there. This is more than a job. This is a calling. Hello, this is Stuart from Hear Me See Me podcast, and today you'll straight away see there's something a bit different. I've got a very special guest podcaster with me, my daughter Esme Roberts, and it'll become clear when I tell you who I'm speaking to today, is the wonderful Jess Megan, who I've been following for quite some time. We've got Scroobius Pip in common, and Dara Lynch, who's done some wonderful work. So I'm so pleased to have you on board. Hello this morning, Jess.
Hello, my darlings. It's so good to be here. By the way, I just thought I'd mention I hydrate a lot. So you're going to see me drinking like loads of water and tea throughout the whole thing. Literally, I was just thinking they're probably looking at me going, why is she drinking so much? And it's just like, hello, it's good to see everybody. It's good to be here. Hi.
My point for you to be here today is because I love everything that Jess is about, but as well, you've got, I'm just a fat old bloke, so I've not got as much in common, even though I love what you do and I believe in it, but you have got so many, you've brought up this, and I admire you so much for your opinions and everything that you enforce on me and all of these things. But I thought the two of you together,
There's something wrong.
I thought the two of you would be great to bring it together as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I wanted to break it up today because there's things that you do that I love. So I thought I'd break it up into 3 sections. So I thought I'd do it in pubes, periods, and positivity.
The 3 Ps. Oh.
The 3 Ps. I've been working on that.
Yeah.
Firstly, there was a recent the documentary was fantastic about growing out your fro. So tell us how that come about.
The Bring Back the Bush program on Channel 4. Wow, that was an experience. I'm really pleased I did that in hindsight. It was at the time I was really like, oh God. At the end of the day, it was a challenge because I was getting my pubes out in front of the nation. So let's face it, it was a little bit of a sort of like, it did take me a minute of going, and it wasn't just people's opinions. It was more about a brand's going to work with me again because it's quite, just put myself out there a little bit. So I was contacted by Channel 4. To be honest, the way these people contact you, I've got no idea. I'm assuming they found me on Instagram, but, they are just so good at what they do, the research teams. And they found me. And when they called me, I said to them, look, I've got to do this. I've got to do this. You have no idea how badly I want to do this. I didn't know at the time that I was going to be getting my pubes out. They didn't actually tell us until like 2 weeks before filming. Right. So I don't know if you guys did watch it, but there is one girl who dropped out. And the reason is because we were all sort of led to believe that there was going to be a beach party at the end. And then they sort of said, oh, actually, we're thinking you could get your pubic hair out that you've been growing for the last 6 weeks or whatever. And I was like, that's a little bit of a bomb, isn't it? Like to drop 2 weeks before, like, we're supposed to do this shoot. But it was amazing. And honestly, I think it's one of those things where it's a bit like a lot of stuff these days. You do it to there's a small team there and you sort of don't realize, you don't comprehend it until you're sat watching yourself from your living room with your mum and your partner just sat there and you're all just like, what? I'm just watching, like, oh, like thinking like, is this, because I hadn't told anyone like what I'd done. And I don't even think my dad's watching. In fact, I told my dad, I said, do you know, I've got my pubes out on national TV. And he went, oh, did you? All right. I think he's completely rolled over like a turtle now and just gone, I don't care anymore. Like he was really resistant at first to like a lot of the things that I wanted to do, and a lot of like, you know, my job, and like, and I think now he's just like, I can't, did you? Oh, I don't, yeah, all right, yeah, okay, I'll get round to watching it at some point. But it was an amazing experience. Really, really cool. Sorry, I chat a lot.
Love it. What a statement.
There's been a lot of pube talk recently because we've been in lockdown for so long.
Yes. So, and it calls like topics of discussion, though, doesn't it? Because you think, you know, everyone's like, no, I shave because I like it. I like my hygiene. And when you actually sit back and reflect, you just think, wait, do you actually like it for your hygiene, or is it just society telling you that you should not have hair? Do you know what? Even right now, I will tell you right now, I do not know, like, I cannot find the border between, am I doing this because I want to do it, or am I doing this because I've been told? And it's like, how do you know?
Yeah. Switch. And I think sometimes you just have to, that's when I'm like, right, I have to go easy on myself right now, and I have to accept that there are some things that I might do until the day I die that are just ingrained in me, like by a patriarchal society, and like it is what it is, and I might do them to that. I might think, oh, you know, the next generation might not do it as much, but I'm just like totally like, I don't know, like, where's the border? Like, have you ever like heard, or have you ever like found any like good advice on, like, because I'm looking for some, I'm like, how do I know that this isn't just exactly
ask you? I don't know. It's so hard, isn't it? I feel like I constantly battle in my mind, like, surely you want to do this for you, or is it because you feel like you have to, kind of thing? Because obviously lockdown, there's been no waxing or anything. So my sister is very hairy, and I'm like, isn't she? She looks like a 90s porn star. And she said to me yesterday, she's like, no, I feel like it's quite empowering now. And I was like, yes, that's what I like. I'm so happy. But as soon as that wax opportunity is there, she's going to wax it off.
She looks like Chewbacca.
But it is mad, isn't it?
I really, honestly, I mean, the thing is, I really enjoyed, like, kind of, that program really was, it was a tipping point for me. Because I love being hairy. But then there are times where I'm like, I don't know, it's like I get this it's like a little moment where I'm just like, I'll just get rid of it all. And it's weird because I was saying to my boyfriend the other day, I was like, I've shaved. And he was like, why'd you do that? And I was like, I don't remember doing it.
Yeah.
And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I don't know. It's weird. It's like it's so ingrained in me to get rid of it at a certain point when it gets to a certain length that I've done it. And then it's gone again. And I'm just like, I don't know why I did that. Like, there was nothing, like, it was just there. It's so, and I said, I think it's honestly an unconscious decision. And a lot of our beauty choices are unconscious decisions. We don't even make them. It's just, before we know it, we've done something to our bodies that we didn't even really like give much thought to. Like, and it's honestly, it's really hard work. It's really hard work to identify the border between I want to do this for me and I actually am just doing this because I feel like I have to. And I'm still battling with that, even as a body confidence influencer who a lot of people do look to me for a lot of guidance on this stuff. And I really honestly especially pandemic has done all sorts of things to my, like, you know, thinking about myself. But I've been thinking, like, you know, a lot of people look to me for guidance and I've still got no fucking clue about a lot of things. Like, I'm really trying, my main concern is just to try and make people feel good, whatever their choices are. But we still have to tackle and dismantle, like, a lot of, like, these ingrained not choices, but you know what I mean? These ideas that have been put in our heads. But mate, like, yeah, I'm still not sure, but I love having hair. But even now, I still have a little bit of, I do get a bit paranoid, but I've got leg hair, do you know what I mean, in summer. And I still get that. I'm like, no, I don't want to feel that. I do. And it's like, I can't help it. I can't lie. And be like, yeah, it doesn't even bother me, mate. Because it does bother me still. And that's annoying. But I mean, there are other areas of my body that I'm really proud of. And I think that's what people look to me for. Like cellulite, couldn't give a fuck. Can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
Like, couldn't give a fuck about my cellulite. Like, you know, my saggy tits, like I don't care about any of that. Like that doesn't bother me. But the hair thing is still something that I'm processing, you know, and I don't expect myself, just because I do have this platform, this authority that I've kind of built over the years. Like there are still areas of me that I'm working on, and I'm sure it's the same for everyone. And the one thing I was thinking the other day is, as women now, not only are we expected to sort of, you know, beforehand it was always, you know, you've got to adhere to beauty standards, you've got to adhere to the diet industry standards. Whereas now we've also got to embrace like positivity, like on top of that. Yeah. So it's like, I'm getting mixed messages. So I've got to do all of this stuff. I've got to make sure that I'm like preened and hairless and gorgeous and clear skin. And if I don't do that, then like, you know, I'm definitely going to get criticism for it, and I'm going to like criticize myself for it. But also I've got to embrace this positive side that's like, you know, you've got to love yourself. And it's just toxic all the time. And all it does is crush your brain into thinking about your body like even more. You see? Like it's like this positivity can also, it's not always good. Sometimes it can make you feel like I'm still just thinking all about my body again. It's frustrating. Anyway, you guys can talk for a bit.
As well, because obviously you're very like body confident, so don't you feel it almost causes you to feel guilty when you have like an off week? Because I'm always being like self-love, like you're amazing, like love your body. And if I have a dodgy, which everyone does, it's normal, like I can love my body and then next week not like it as much, I feel guilty because I'm like saying you be confident in yourself, and then when I take a step back and I'm having an off day, it's like, what am I doing? It's like, so hard.
Totally fine, totally normal. And I think like with my followers, when platform, I always like say like you've got to preach honesty, and it's not always easy to feel like feeling good about yourself and feeling confident in your body is a skill that you have to learn, because you have to unlearn all of the like ingrained messages that you've grown up like taking in. And I always say to my followers, I have to school myself constantly. Because I have to unlearn all of this stuff. It's not like we're all just going to learn it. Like people say to me, how are you confident? How do you do this? And I'm like, you have to actively commit time to unlearning it and technically learning, but also unlearning. So like reading books about, you know, the diet industry, things like The Beauty Myth by Naomi Wolf, like all of these sorts of books that actually actively inform you so that when you are having those off days, you can accept I'm having an off day because I've been taught that my body is bad, and that, you know, maybe I'm, you know, we all have them. It's completely fine. It's totally normal. In fact, you know, I'd be surprised to meet someone who hasn't experienced that, you know, every now and then. But if you are armed with the sort of academic like, you know, the kind of like the socio like political information that you need to like so you can sit back and go, I'm having a bad day, but I know that it's because of this. Yeah. I know that because I have that information. That's why I say to people, listen to podcasts about body confidence, listen to listen to these things and read these things, because it will teach you and it will arm you with that information. So you know that it's not like that your body is bad. It's just that your brain is having one of those days where it's like sending thoughts and it's like, everything is bad, and you're like, can you provide me with evidence that my body is bad? And your brain's like, no. You're just having a bad day. Yeah, I'm having a bad day. Okay, that's fine. Like, that's fine. We can have a bad day. We'll go easy on it today. We'll go for a walk. We'll do some nice things for ourselves. But your brain can sometimes have a little bit of a moment where it's like, I don't like it. Everything's ugly. And you're just like,
it's so relatable, honestly. It's a lot. It's a lot to being a woman.
It's fascinating for me because we don't like. like person of my age and my gender, we don't know that struggle.
No.
And I'm learning. You're teaching me, and you know, and that program was great because it highlights what a big deal. Because on the surface, it's got that little sort of thing of, oh, it's just about women growing their pubes out, you know, but then you see the effect to a point where a woman has to pull out. What a big deal it is. And that's why I think these type of programs are really crucial, because they open up to a bigger audience of that.
Yeah, think the amount of like white cis men that just come across your program, watched it, they probably learned so much. And like, it's just, do you know what I think? I always, when I watched it, I think I really hope like a 30-year-old builder's watching this from Epping and he's like, come across your program and he would learn so much. That's why I just think it's so good that we've got educators like you out there, because people need to learn. And
it's a really, I completely agree. And honestly, like my idea, I would love the idea of them just sitting there going, what a load, like initially like, what a load of shit. It's just an opportunity for women to like fucking complain about something else. And they're watching it and they're like, it's quite good actually. I learned that. Did you know that? Did you know that about like Playboy? And it's just like I quite like that.
I only tuned in to see some pubes, and then I ended up getting educated.
But that's the thing. Like that's it. Sometimes people get learned. And actually, like I was saying this to my friend the other day, and I was just like, what I quite like about my platform is that I lure them in a little bit. Do you know what I mean? It's like they're like, oh, lingerie pics, and then wham, I'm like, right. Did you know? Good evening, sir. Do you know about the patriarchy? And the ones and obviously a lot of them leave, but that you do hook some in that stay, and then they go. It's the problem is like a lot of people read defensively. They just read and see defensively. They immediately think she says men, that's got to be me. Fuck her, like, and that's it. End of conversation. And it's just like. It's part of it, and that's fine. And I try my best to kind of like, you know, I try my best to say, look, I don't even want to say not all men, because I don't really like that phrase anymore. But it's just trying to bring people in and like educate them, and hopefully they stay. Not everyone will. I appreciate that the way I speak can be quite off-putting, but I don't care. It's just like, meh, I'm not that bothered. But the program was great, and I mean, pubes are life. Like I love them. Like, and I love talking about this stuff. I don't know if you guys saw, I uploaded a photo recently. Maybe I say recently. It was last month, and my pubes were sticking out of my pants, and I got a lot of shit for that. Actually, a lot of shit from women as well. Surprisingly, I was really surprised by that. And it was a shame, but people are just so. The one thing that I can't believe this, like this is mad, but the one thing that I notice, or the one thing that really upsets me, is when men say that's unhygienic, and I'm like, right. So just to clarify, you've got no pubes on your pubis, just, you know, you've got no pubes on your groin. And they're like, well, yeah, and I'm like, right. So okay, so like and I'm like, I feel like. This should lead you to a logical conclusion now. Like I can let you go from here, but they're like, yeah, but you know, it's unhygienic on women. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I uploaded them to these screenshots of these comments to my stories, because it's just like the differences that we're taught in pubes in men and women. It's just this idea that like, and also, sorry babes, but like, why have we got to be hairless? There's something a little bit creepy about it, don't you think?
Isn't it? I feel like this all the time. Like the ideal like beauty standard for women is no pubes at all. Looking, like really young, to the point where women feel pressured to get cosmetic surgery, Botox. There's just something about it that I just think it's really strange. If you don't fit into that standard, you're just not seen as perfect. And it's like, but why? There's like, people could be sexy with pubes. It makes no sense to me. But
it's creepy. It's creepy. It's creepy. Like somebody, like, I mean, there's lots of like speak on this on the internet now, especially over on TikTok. The Gen Zers, like they're pretty onto it. But basically, it's like somebody did like a quiz, and they were like, right, like beauty standards. Do you prefer hair or no hair? No hair. Do you prefer like, you know, cellulite or no cellulite, or no cellulite. And it went through and it went, congratulations, your preference in a woman is a child.
Yeah.
And it is like, yeah, because I mean, people have started to realize, I mean, as I know it, especially, I got more, I was looked at more and creeped on and followed more when I was like between the ages of 14 to 18, maybe 17, than I was when I was 21. Like, and I absolutely got more attention as a literal child than I did when I was like even a young woman, even like a 21-year-old. I was still like, I still noticed I got more attention when I was younger. And that's what's really fun about it. It is not ill. It's like, it's something that I'm going in hard on now. I speak about a lot online, and I'm just like, guys, this is wrong. This is really bad. Like, you know, why do we have to look like children in order for people to think we're valuable? This is really fucked up. So, yeah. It's a big conversation, Stuart. Like, honestly, like it's
it's brilliant. And but the thing is as well that as soon as that comes to that level, then that hits a real nerve with me, you know. And I was only watching a program last night about the sort of paedophile hunters and the actual amount of the size of the problem, you know, the size of the problem. And so people are actively looking for that online, and they're actively, but the scary thing of that is it's that sort of grey area that's acceptable, but then but this isn't. So that's the horror, but that's not, but that, where does that blend in from that to that? Where does that go on from that to that? And where does that develop? And that's the scary thing, I think.
Yeah, I saw that program as well. I think I know the one you're talking about. And that's like, it's, when you look at the stats, it is really terrifying that I was speaking about like sort of like schoolgirl outfits and stuff. Yeah. And there is just something like, there's an insidiousness ingrained in like the way we objectify women that I just find so, like, it's so dangerous and so toxic. And the worst part is that when you speak up about it, you get gaslighted into believing that you're exaggerating the problem, and that actually it's not really that bad. And actually, if the girl is 18, she's technically legal, so it's fine. And I just find that so gross. And I feel like it's just that people just shut down the conversations wherever they can. And luckily, we have social media now. If we didn't have social media, these conversations wouldn't be happening. I was teaching. I'm a lecturer now, a guest lecturer for Condé Nast College, and I was teaching these girls. I was saying to them, look, social media has changed everything. Like, we are having conversations now that we would not have had the platform to do so. Like, we would not have been able to have these chats. Like, we would not know each other. We would not have these conversations. They just wouldn't happen. So the fact that we have social media for this is just like, it makes me I'm so happy to like be able to like use my voice and like actually speak about these things, because I've always thought it's always made me feel uncomfortable. But, you know, like having a platform to speak about this stuff is really important, and I'm glad for it.
Yeah, I think as well, as soon as you become uncomfortable, that's the time when you know you're in the right direction. You've got to push yourself to do that.
Yeah, for sure. But when I do speak about it, I mean, obviously it's important to gauge what people respond back with, and obviously not everyone agrees with me. It's one thing not to agree with me, and it's another thing to like there's a lot of aggression online when I speak about this stuff. Especially, I mean, obviously men are the main problem. They really like they're either really quiet or like they're really sort of like loud. But like it's interesting, like the responses I get. I do try to listen to my followers when they tell me like I'm slightly off with something. But if the majority of the response, if like say 90% of the response is sort of like in my favor, then I'm like, okay, this is I'm onto something, you know. But yeah, I try and speak up where I can. It's just, yeah, this is something that I'm looking more closely into in behind the scenes as well. This whole this whole conversation is something that I'm like researching a lot more into. This whole like sort of like objectifying very young girls.
Yeah.
Isn't it great though that you're going to colleges and you're like guest speakers for something like this topic? Because I feel like I would have loved to have heard that if I was at school or college. So it's great that you're getting in and like being like, girls, think about this, because I like started my journey of feminism when I went to uni.
So did I.
I didn't have a clue. I literally was getting objectified left, right. I did not have a clue.
I loved it. I loved being objectified. I loved being objectified.
I loved the validation it brought me. But now I'm like,
Yeah. I'm the exact same. University changed my life. I don't know what it is. It's something in the air at universities. It just changes women and their opinions about things. And they come back from university famously, and their families are like completely blindsided by these sudden feminists that come back from university. And like my dad was completely like can't deal with you anymore. It's too much. Don't want to hear it. Like and it was always, and we had these like blown out conversations and like arguments, actually. Like a lot of it was arguments, because I just learned so much. And it's honestly, it's common. It happens all the time. Like women go away to universities, they come back and they're like hold the phone, like, and they're obviously like, and my dad's the same. My dad would never have been about trans rights like before, like, and now he's like, I mean, it's a work in progress, but it's just the fact that he's come round to even being like, no, they deserve the same as everybody else, But it's just there's this ingrained thought in a lot of like, men sort of like, 50s and so on. And again, like, Stu, don't mean to generalize at all, but it is a problem, like in terms of like they've grown up in a different time. And it is they've grown up in a completely different time. And so now you've got this generation of people who are fighting for a very varied sort of like spectrum, bell curve of rights for all sorts of different people. And it just, I think to my dad, and I think to people like my dad, it just feels like a huge, like like this cry of attention from all these different people. Everybody wants a voice, everybody. And my dad's just like, why can't, it's just like, why can't we all just why can't we just respect each other? Why can't we all just get along? And the thing is, it's like, Dad, these people don't have rights. Like these people don't have a voice. And it's a struggle, but I think the main thing is, as long as there's an attempt to understand and give an open floor to like voices like yours when you have these conversations and like listening to what you're saying, because honestly, like my dad really struggles with that. Like he really does.
We had the same thing, didn't we? You came back and we've had stand up,
rows,
nose to nose, shouting.
Yeah.
And it makes you just feel like you're crazy because you're so passionate. And you're in a household which people aren't as passionate, or they don't understand it more. It makes you feel like you're actually a crazy person. But I do say you have come on so far.
Thank you.
With it, and at least you try and learn, because a lot of men don't care to even try. So it's so good that you even try and understand.
The thing is, I've had to go through such a learning process over the last 15 years because I had to become sober. So, I'm just coming up 15 years sober. And when you were saying earlier about your battle with your constant thing of being, like authentic to your positivity, it's the same what you have to do with sobriety. Yeah. You have to. You don't just stop drinking and then become a sober person. You constantly have to change your ways, and it's a constant battle. And it becomes something that you just evolve, and it's a continual process. Every day's a learning day. Yeah. It was a bit like this, and speaking up for dads and your dad, it's and a lot of people understand this from our generation, and we've had chats about this. Yeah. It's not that we don't, we do believe in what you believe in, but I just try and defend just where it comes from. It doesn't come from it comes from our influences. Yeah. And in the 70s, we were brought up on entertainment that was based on racism, sexism, You know, we had the Jim Davisons to laugh at. We had the Love Thy Neighbour programs to watch. I've downloaded them and shown you some of them, haven't I?
Yeah, I could watch it.
You know, like Alf Garnett and these things. And I said, look, this is what we was brought up with.
Yeah.
You know, so we can't, and as you said earlier, you can't unlearn stuff. You know, I spent the first 43 years of my life doing a certain thing. I couldn't switch it off. I had to then unlearn. It's taken me 15 years to unlearn day by day. And that's what you're facing as well, and it's what we're facing. But what's wonderful is that when you can then come together, you know, and I do feel passionately, you know, about things now. You know, we watched It's a Sin, didn't we? I'm crying my eyes out. It's a Sin. You know,
I can't get over that show.
You know, and it was so poignant because I remember living through that.
Yeah.
I remember the AIDS advert with the tombstone.
Yeah.
And but I was oblivious at that time. And I was one of them who probably thought like that.
Yeah, so it's
and
mad.
I cringe inside. I think, my God, I was like thinking that. And then when they say, oh, yeah, it's a curse and it's a, you know, I remember probably being that person who was thinking that. But it's been forgiving enough to go, right, you know, but and being willing to learn. Yeah. To unlearn and then learn. Which is crucial.
No, it takes ages to unlearn what you've been brought up to know. Like, I went to uni like I said to you, like an uneducated person. And I feel like with you, you've done well because, like you say, you've been growing up from a little kid all the way to now. What are you laughing at?
I'm just laughing because it's been emotional.
Yeah, but you what you know from a child up to now, you are trying to unlearn it, which I think's amazing. So you can unlearn things, but like it's always fighting that constant battle of like, but I was in a different generation too, but like we're in this generation now. Yeah, like there's only so much people can use it as an excuse. I feel, and you don't. I don't think. No, some people can just shut it down by not wanting to learn about how we feel in this society in this day and age because they were brought up in a different generation. That's like an excuse to completely not even bother.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. The way I see it is like, especially with like people like my dad and my grandma, and I've got a sort of one side of my family is very conservative. Is even if they seem very like they close down the conversation very quickly, the way I see it is I've planted that seed now. It doesn't really matter if they've seemed defensive to it. The fact is I've planted that seed of thought and like that could grow into something. So it's not always that I feel that everything has to be like a loss if somebody doesn't immediately like my dad is proof of that. You know, he's come around leaps and bounds in the last like 5 years. And I, you know, from conversations that I thought he had written off as completely irrelevant. And it's because he values me as his daughter and he likes, and he values my opinions. He sees the power that I have outside of speaking to him. And I think that makes him sit up and go, okay, like maybe there's something in this. And plus someone I love is saying it. And that's why like women like you and me like are so powerful in that we have that influence as daughters. And I'm not saying that like, again, like this is another whole conversation, like, you know, emotional labor and whatnot, and having to kind of give our time as women to try and kind of like teach people empathy for vulnerable, marginalized human beings. And that's like, yeah, that's a whole other thing. But it's just trying to, I think, it's just we're creating a more tolerant society. Yeah. And my dad, very much like you, the It's a Sin thing. I remember my dad getting really upset because there are these like vulnerable, ill gay men in these hospital beds completely alone, like, and their mothers wouldn't even come and see them. And what we know now, he was like, oh, I would go and I would hug them and I would be there for them. And I was like, you wouldn't have done it then. He's like, no, I wouldn't have. But he's like, knowing what I know now, like just knowing that like not even their mums would go and see them. Like he was like, I can't, like that really upset him because it spoke to his it spoke to him, and it spoke to sort of, I suppose, my dad does have like a pretty big ego, but he's also a very protective guy. And that just knowing that, you know, these people needed someone and like they died alone, that sort of reached out to him. And I said, Dad, the thing is, like, that's still happening now. And there are trans people out there who are being murdered for who they are. And he was like, that's not right. And it's just having those breakthrough moments where it's getting other people to understand other people's humanity. And that's where it grows for like a beautiful flower from that point. And then they start to come more open to it, because at the end of the day, the source of people's understanding and compassion comes from a relatability factor, that we're all just humans and we all just want to be loved and understood. And I try now, as you know, years ago, I used to be so angry at my dad for not understanding. And now I'm like, I try and hold space for him to have his sort of like moment of, I don't like, you know, he doesn't get it, but, you know, while also kind of like giving him a little bit more time, because these are kind of like, these are very, like, to him, it's very complex concepts. But also I say to him, Dad, like, it's important that you don't spend too much time, like, like kind of understand, because at the end of the day, that, you know, that like, it's the kind of thinking that the toxic thinking that you have does have an effect, like, on general society, especially now with social media, because we're putting all our thoughts out there. But like, he's getting it much better now. So yeah, it's just trying to get people to understand other people's humanity, isn't it? Yeah. Like when you see somebody who needs your help, like I know that you definitely do, like for what you do, you just think this person needs my help. It probably wouldn't matter to you, like who it was, but because they need help. So yeah, I mean, I've actually never spoken about this before. I've never spoken about my dad, because I think I've always just felt a little bit like, because I think this conversation's given me the opportunity to explore that a little bit, because I've never done it before in public. I've literally never spoken about my dad ever. My mum a lot, because she made me the feminist I am in a lot of ways. But yeah, my dad didn't play that part at all, and actually it's been me that's been teaching him. So it's an interesting one to like have. So if I seem at any way like a little bit like, it's just because it's fresh ground for me. I've never spoken about my dad on a podcast or anything, so it's weird.
But it's fascinating, because I just know, I feel like I know your dad. I'm going to give your dad a big cuddle if ever I meet him. But
you guys would get on so well. I mean, I told him what you did. I told him that I was doing this today, and he was like, obviously, like, he's very much, you know, big respect.
But you touched on something there that you said about it doesn't matter who they are if they need help. And I think if you are empathetic, and you know, that really does come through. And I've learned so much just in doing. I think it's 7 years in November that I've been doing haircuts for homeless, and because I've met everyone.
Yeah,
it's not, you know, it affects
homelessness. Yeah, it doesn't discriminate. Like,
every race, creed, colour. I've met trans people. I've met, you know, more than one. I met trans people in that position. So not only are they trans, they're also homeless.
Yeah. And
I learned so much from one guy who, lady. Done it, and but I'm learning.
Okay,
I'm learning.
I'm learning. Aware.
But I learned from one lady. But she explained to me, and she was homeless, so she'd managed to get a certain amount of stuff done.
Yeah.
But it wasn't very much. So she was aware that she, you know, and I'd done it. She loved it when I'd done her hair. That was really empowering. But what she explained to me was, because I rely on national health, and I've only can go, so I can't get anything done, that I'm not convincing. So if I go to the toilet. If I go to a woman's toilet, I get like, what are you doing in here?
Oh, so sad.
And I never thought of that. Yeah. You know, I learned so much from her.
Yeah.
You know, the struggle of A, being trans, but B, being extremely poor.
Yeah. And literally having got a home. She hasn't got a safe space to feel accepted, or like she's not going to get beat up for who she is. she's on the streets and having to deal with that.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how that feels.
It's incredible. It's incredible, unimaginable kind of poverty and complete and utter like underprivileged life. That, I mean, the thing about and trans is so, because I think like a lot of the trans people we see on television or in the media tend to accept them when they sort of adhere to that sort of gender role, or they look like they look like a conventional woman, you know. They like, you know, I'm thinking like obviously trans people don't tend to feature on RuPaul's Drag Race, but they have that kind of really they conform to what we think a woman looks like. And that's the only time that we give them any credit or value as a woman. And it becomes this really like, and when you're homeless, or if you don't have access or resources to things that maybe you would love to have access to, but don't allow you to look like, you know, a conventional woman. Again, conventional is key, because obviously, you know, being a woman is not monolithic and takes so many different forms. But it makes it so much more difficult for the general public to understand you. And it adds another layer of oppression to you and who you are. And I think it's fascinating. I mean, my dad has done, I'm not sorry to not bring it back to my dad, but he never met a trans person. He lives out in the sticks in Denmark, like literally no one, like he lives in like a hamlet, like he does not meet anybody, like, whereas I'm obviously like in a job that means I've got access to lots of different kinds of people. And you working with Haircuts for Homeless means that, you know, you'll be meeting a far larger spectrum, which has probably given you a catalyst in learning like about different kinds of people. And that in itself is like, you know, probably why you have the podcast and why we're having this conversation. You know, my dad is way behind, but again, is like also like trying his best. And like, it's such a, it's fascinating. It's a really interesting conversation to have. But I think as long as like, I always tell him like, as long as you're like holding space for their like humanity, like, but the thing is he still gets really hung up on like, on really trivial arguments, you know, like trans bathrooms and like sport. And I'm not saying that these conversations aren't worth having. I'm just saying that like, he has hooks in his mind where he's like, I'm going to hang my coat here. And every time the conversation gets brought up, he hangs his coat back on that same conversation. What about bathrooms? Yeah. What about sports? What about bathrooms? What about sports? And I'm like, Dad, we have to get past this eventually. We have to have like more, we have to have more nuanced discussions about these people, because they're not just kind of these like, they're not guinea pigs. They are like, you know, and also stats reflect, and I have to show him stats and so on and so forth. And it's just, but yes, no, the trans conversation is an interesting one, especially when it comes to, but I mean, the homelessness thing, I mean, that's fascinating as well.
Yeah. There's another thing, aspect, and it goes on to the second P, which is homelessness. What I've come across is period poverty.
Yes.
Now, I know yours is like period power.
Yeah.
Period power.
It's my drag name.
Yeah, period power. But period woman. But which is great, and that's one aspect. But the other aspect is period poverty, which I've really come across. That people, you know, people always say to me, "Oh, I'll get them a coffee, and I'll get them, I'll get them a sandwich and that." But sometimes, like a woman, and even not in homelessness, even in low-income families, and you know, the fact that some women in our very rich society cannot afford personal, goods.
Yeah, no.
I'm trying.
No, it's true.
But it's horrific. It's horrific.
Well, it's just a matter of like, why are we even having to pay for something that we can't?
Yeah.
We can't help having.
Yeah. It is. So I can't imagine how homeless women feel when I'm on my period. I could be the most, moodiest, moodiest person. So I like to just stay in bed all day and eat chocolate. So
I must be constantly on my period then.
Being on the streets and homeless on my period, like, not even just for not being able to wear towels or tampons, but for the fact of, like, you feel like you need comfort when you're on. I don't know about you, but that's how I feel. So that must just be...
That's a great point. And, you know, actually, now that you've said it, like, that is an excellent point that I've never really considered, that it's not just the requirement of, you know, I'm really sorry, I'm just going to shut the window because someone's moving a sheet of metal around. It's very, very irritating. Right. That's a great point that you just made in regards to the comfort level. I actually haven't really considered that, because, of course, when you're on your period, it's not just I need a tampon, I need a pad. It's I'm in pain, I have cramps, I'm obviously, you know, I'm feeling quite dirty down there, not because periods are dirty, but because obviously, you know, dry blood and mucus and whatnot. And that can be very, there's a whole other level of, like, and the comfort thing, like you said, like, I personally, like, I'm a little bit of I'm one of these people that I'm like, no, let's get up and go. Like, at the same time, like, I'm like, sometimes I do need, like, a break. And if you need that, if you're somebody that has terrible cramping or whatnot, like, or if you're particularly moody and you don't want to interact with the world, you don't have a safe space and you don't have time.
No.
You don't necessarily have the privilege of just, you know, like, I'm not saying you're lazy, like, don't get me wrong, or lying in bed. Like, I'm saying, when I lie in bed, like, you and I have that option. If it's like, you know what, I'm going to take the time, I'm going to take some time for myself in a safe space where I can lie in bed. We have that privilege and they don't. And so again, it's like, my apologies, I just belched. But, like, period poverty is very much focused on providing, like, you know, the things that you need to plug and absorb, but not really any of the other things, nothing else that you may need while on a period. So it's a really great point that comfort. I've never really thought about that. Yeah, it's
no, no, no.
Look at me. No, neither have I. It just kind of came.
Look at you. You're like a maverick. You're like a natural maverick. You know, you're like same minds ablaze with your just the thoughts that you haven't even. You're just like, oh, you know this. It's just like,
we love that.
The other aspect of it is that thing of period shame. The anti-period shame.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that I know you both stand for as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Jess has had some great pictures online with her pad showing.
Yeah.
You love all that, don't you?
It's what we literally need, isn't it? Like, the more we can normalise periods, the more accepting it would be within society. It just blows my mind, though, because it's more, well, I don't know about you, but I feel like a lot of men are more grossed out by periods, because obviously we have to just deal with it. Into that. And it's just mad when you think about how disgusted people can be just by blood that leaves your body. Like, people can sit there and watch really gory horror films, people getting cut up, blood everywhere, and they're like...
You're talking about your brother now?
Yeah. They're sat there with their popcorn, like, this is amazing. Yeah. And I'll give a pad on the side with some blood in it, and he's like, oh my God, that's it, isn't he? Yeah. He's like, that's disgusting.
Be fair with him, though, he can't watch A&E either, can he?
Yeah, true. Yeah, not Tom necessarily.
We'll forgive him a little bit.
We'll forgive him a bit. But that kind of difference is...
Yeah, I think ultimately, like, it's such an interesting, like, it's a multitude of, like, there's like a multitude of conversation. But yeah, I upload photos. I upload photos sometimes to annoy people. Yeah. Like, I upload photos that are very open, like showing actual blood that I have, like, you know, leaked on my period. Not because I think that that's what everyone should do, but because sometimes I feel like you expose people, you literally drown them in the deep end. Like, and you're like, you get them so sort of like, you have them question their own prejudices, their own internalized prejudices about something, when you expose them to something that is so like beyond what they've like usually seen, that, you know, it normalizes it for them far quicker. There are posts that I've posted literally because, again, it's not something that I'm like, everyone should do this all the time. Yeah. It's just because I want to kind of boil them alive with the message I'm trying to like give them. And so that when they're exposed to something a little bit less sort of in their face, it doesn't freak them out as much. And I think that it's really messed up, really. But in Western society, we have a pretty like conservative outlook on periods. But then when you look at the rest of the world, I mean, there's isolation huts for women who are on their periods. They're not allowed to interact with people on their period. That's how shameful and dirty it's considered to be. And I think a lot of it's to do with, again, this idea of women, like we want to believe that women are essentially just children that you can fuck. Yeah. And when you bring up periods, it's a sort of like sign of puberty, and it's sort of like it's very weird. It's kind of this weird sort of like mental denial of that this happens, because it doesn't happen. I mean, pornography is a big like, you know, reason as well. It's sort of like this isn't sexy. Women are supposed to be sexually objectified, and periods are not sexy. So therefore I don't want it to feature on this plastic silicone idea of a woman that I've created in my mind, because we're always presented with the Barbie doll version of women. So when that woman is growing hair and bleeding, it's very like, it is for so many people, it's at odds with what they've believed women to be. When women are just like men, just humans, we sprout hair, we grow, we have growth spurts, we stretch, our skin dimples. One of my biggest things I talk about online is the human body is not made of plastic. It is going to grow, it's going to sprout hair, it's going to move, and it's going to change, because like it's as old as time. The human body is just, I mean, like, honestly, I get emotional over how incredible the human body is. And I get so like angry that people have boxed the human body into thinking it should look a certain way, because there's so many different varieties, and it's the most intricate and fascinating piece of biological machinery that has ever existed. And the fact that people get so like obsessed with trying to kind of like create this synthetic version of it is so disappointing, when there's so much value and there's so much, I don't like the word beauty, because I feel like it kind of, you know, you're beautiful, babes, like shut up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not about being beautiful in the conventional way. It is absolutely like just awesome what it can do. Like, I sometimes look at my fingers and the way that like I can do that. My brain has developed all these different neuro pathways into knowing exactly what I want to do next. And all the words that are coming out of my mouth right now, that's amazing. Yeah. How can we not be so in awe of the human body? It's incredible. And then you look at how old it is and how far it's come from millions and millions of years. And I know that, like, again, it's a bit cringe because I've seen this a lot. Like, they're made of stardust. I don't mean to like it, but it's true. Like, we came from nothing, and look at how amazing we are. I mean, ultimately, like, I posted this yesterday and I think it's amazing. We are just gangly flesh beasts with long limbs, and we have a hole in our face full of protruding bones. I mean, if you're really wanting to be very body neutral, or at least, you know, like, consider the fact that we're all just very freakish looking, like, we're all very odd. And I love that thought, because I think that comes away from the whole, you're so beautiful, like, you know, value yourself. It's like you could just think of yourself as a fleshy tree, which kind of helps things somewhat. But I went on a rant there because I think this is why I'm so sort of like open and honest on my platform, because I think I find it so like, having a period is part of being a woman. And as much as like, and it frustrates me how it's seen as a woman's thing. Well, it's part of, obviously, as well, like, shout out to like non-binary people, like obviously like they're, not everyone who is has a period is a woman. But it is so like, it's always seen as such a like hippy dippy problem, it's just like, oh, it's a woman's thing, like whatever. It's what gives us life. It's part of the process that gives life to every single human being on the earth. Rather than seeing it as a woman's thing, oh, woman's time, oh, it's just like a little kind of issue, oh, whatever, it's like, can we not consider this as part of the circle of life, which gives life to every single human that we know? And like, without it, none of us would exist.
No.
So can we stop making it like such a little like issue that's like, oh, just, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just find that a lot of the speak around periods is so like, I'm trying to think of the word, like it's so diminishing. It's so like, it's
like celebrated, I feel.
Yeah.
Like, we learned just about, like at school, when you was taught about periods, I don't feel like I was taught in like a celebratory like way. It was more like the facts and, do you know what I mean? I feel like
here's your fuck off. Like, here's a power.
Like, if we actually knew about like how amazing it is, like we have periods that causes people to be on this earth. I feel like we'd celebrate it more and it'd be more normalised. And I don't know. I feel like there's a long way to go for periods to literally be like a normal thing, but I feel like we're doing a great job, I guess.
A much better job.
Yeah.
Like, I am glad to see that so many people, I mean, and I was having an interview with this news website the other day. They said, how much of a part do brands have in normalizing this? And I'm like, huge, like absolutely massive. I worked with a brand recently who one of the pictures went viral. And I mean, they were still using blue liquid. And I was like, right, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the power of marketing something honestly. And it was the best campaign they ever did. It went viral because it was an honest portrayal of, it wasn't even that controversial. You might have seen it. I'm just wearing a pad on some mesh pants. And I'm proudly showing it, like, look at this pad.
Yeah.
Oh, God. And people were so like, whoa, it was a clean pad. It wasn't even, there was no blood on it. It was a clean pad. It was a literal piece of like, like it was just fibers. Like, I was just like, come on, guys. Like, this is how messed up it is. And it's just like, it really is like, it's just trying to normalize it by speaking about it and showing people it and just being like, it's really okay. It's not gonna do anything to you.
Yeah, it's interesting what you just said, because I've never thought of that. You said about the blue liquid. So you mean like on the adverts, and you see the like, why is it blue liquid?
Yeah,
because it's our advert. It's our adverse. Yeah. We don't. Again, it's that denial of blood, and. Like it's something that's something that should be ashamed of. I mean, it's not even just, I mean, a lot of women, it's not even that like they feel like necessarily about, like, it's not just pure shame. It's just like this idea of, for me personally, because I don't mind talking about my period, but it's this idea that I'm like, when I talk about it, I still get that feeling of like, I'm being such a feminist right now. Nobody wants to listen to me. Yeah. Like, I feel so boring. Like, no one wants to listen to my fucking period. I'm such a hippie feminist. Like, burn the bra. I can hear the voice in my head. Yeah. It's like, it's not that I feel shame about, and I'm sure you can relate to this. It's when you're speaking to someone like your dad or a man or whatever, it's not that I feel shame, like, that I don't mind saying I'm on my period. I have no problem saying that to you. But I still have this voice in my head of, you're being a boring feminist. No one wants to hear this. Shut up. Like no one wants to hear about your period. And it's just like, that's the voice I'm now trying to get past. It's like, I don't really care if they don't want to hear it, because they have to hear it, because this is the only way that this thing is going to be normalized. Mm-hmm. So it's that fear of being boxed into a stereotype that I'm still trying to get past. And that's why I throw myself in the deep end every time and post it on Instagram. And I'm just like,
when you do that though, say when you post a controversial picture or video, do you still have that anxiety once it's posted? And when you get some hate from men and women, like, how do you cope and how do you feel about it?
I don't mind criticism. I've literally, I got a baptism of fire last year when a video I posted went viral on TikTok, and I literally have never had so much hate. And I think once you've had so the worst criticism I get is criticism that speaks to I'm trying to be a good political influencer, somebody who is very inclusive of everyone. So the worst criticism I get is you're not being inclusive enough or something like that. Being told I'm disgusting or I'm a fat pig water off a duck's back, doesn't even bother me. Couldn't give a fuck. The criticism I look out for are the ones where it's like you weren't like kind enough to this section of people. You didn't take these people into consideration. You were exclusive in the way you explained this thing. And that's when I'm like, okay, like that stuff hurts, because I feel like that's what I'm aiming to be, the best version of that I can be. So when I'm not that, that's what hurts. Yeah. But yeah, hearing people call me like, oh, you're rank, oh, you're vile, it doesn't bother me at all. The other thing that bothers me, especially with social media lately, is deplatforming. Instagram has become incredibly discriminatory, and so has TikTok's terrible for it. TikTok is blatant with how discriminatory they are towards bodies that basically don't fit into that cis slim size 8.
So
yeah, they are so bad at it. Like, I mean, like TikTok, Instagram, at least they kind of try to hide it, whereas TikTok is just like, you're disabled, bye. Like, they even, like, it's mad. But and their policy on it was, well, we're just trying to protect these people from being bullied on the platform. I'm like, why don't you invest your resources and energy into actually like dealing with the trolls, as opposed to deleting people, marginalized voices? But that's a conversation for another day. I don't mind criticism. It's Instagram that really bothers me. So when I get nervous, it's because I'm like, are they going to deplatform me for posting this? Because at the end of the day, it's like watching your shop get burnt down with no insurance. If my Instagram gets taken away from me, that's my job gone. And that's, again, maybe we could do this another time. But yeah, that's a whole other like thing. I love what I do, and I love putting messages out there, and I love being controversial. I don't mind people calling me names. It doesn't bother me at all, honestly. Like, in fact, it kind of makes me laugh. And actually, I use criticism not to anchor me, but to propel me. I've said this a lot on Instagram. It's just like, when people criticize you, don't always see it as because you're doing the wrong thing. So oftentimes it's because you're doing the right thing. So use it to push you as opposed to bring you down. So if anything, like, I actually kind of get off on it in a way. I kind of enjoy a little bit of criticism. I enjoy controversy, because at the end of the day, like, I'd rather people were talking about me than they weren't. But yeah, like, deplatforming and being told that I wasn't inclusive enough, those are the two things that bother me the most about social media now.
That's worrying, isn't it? The deplatforming thing, that you can't be authentic with what you believe in. Yeah. That is a worrying thing. And it leads on to the last thing of the body positivity, because you said it doesn't fit in, like, if you're not a size 8 and all that. And that's what you've really, you've been in that, you know, since you was very young, weren't you?
Yeah. I look back at school time, and I thought I was really fat, and I was like hating myself.
I remember.
And I look back now and I'm like, oh my God, Esme, number one, you was actually smaller than what you are now, but I'm so much more confident now. And it's just mad, because I feel like we are taught from such a young age, like from literally when we start going to school, that if you look a bit curvy or you've got some hips, like, you are told that you are fat and you aren't like accepted in the beauty standard. I feel like that comes with age and time, doesn't it? Because I'm definitely still on the process of it all, for sure.
I've got to say, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you because I saw the struggle you had when you was a young girl, and it was worrying. It was so worrying that you weren't, and you had that thing, because you're such a different shape to your younger sister. You're so close, and you're two different completely shapes. But it used to worry me how much it worried you. Yeah. And to the point where, you know, like when you found your strength, when you found yourself. I mean, tell Jess, how did you come back from Ibiza that time?
Oh my God, yeah. I was in Ibiza. I went straight from the club to the airport. I was in you'd love it. I was in a jumpsuit, which was full on lace. I had a thong on and no bra, so literally my nipples were through the lace and my bum cheeks were out, walking around Gatwick like me in year 7, or a 13-year-old girl would never dream that Esme at the age of 21 would ever be doing something like that. But I think it is. I'm sure you can relate. It's literally a part. I don't even want to say that because it's so frustrating, but it's part of it being acceptance of a woman and accepting yourself, and it doesn't come from a young age. I'd be so shocked if someone at a young age is as body confident as I am now. I feel like it's a part of the process, but I really hope like we can get to a point where women are happy in their skins from like the age of 13, even if they are like curvier. Do you know what I mean?
It's the dream. This is partially why I'm sort of like I'm getting into more educational spaces now, because I want to try and ingrain a healthier message about bodies into young girls. Because the thing is, in your formative years, we learn all of these horrible toxic messages, and ultimately, yes, you know, we can do the work as like older women, as adults, to unlearn it. But ideally, the idea is to try and not learn it in the first place. I'm not saying that that's like completely realistic, but actually, I do have a pretty optimistic outlook on that. And also, like, to get young girls to like learn better, healthier like messages about their bodies and their formative years, because the formative years fuck you up for life. Yeah. Like, you carry messages from when you were a child through to your adulthood, and that will spill out onto other people, and it can affect you. Like they say, like, you know, if you don't, like, what's that phrase? It's brilliant. It's about cutting if you're cut when you were younger and you don't heal it, you'll bleed onto people who, you know, didn't cut you, or something like that. That is not the phrase. It's something.
I understand. Yeah.
You end up bleeding onto people who didn't cut you later in life, and that's, you know, that's on trauma. And I think that women specifically have a very, very have such a terrible connection and relationship with their bodies, and that has an active effect on who they become as adults. And it's not just, and I'm seriously, this isn't just about loving your body. This isn't just about body positivity and body confidence. You will allow people to walk all over you and treat you like garbage when you are insecure about yourself. Like, you will fuck people who you should not let fuck you, because you feel like it's all you deserve. You will put up with bad behavior because you are so insecure and feel so down on yourself, and you're so ashamed of your body that you think, I deserve this bad thing that's happening to me because I am so wrong. Like, all of these important, crucial neuropathways that are created in your formative years cannot be created because of shame. And when we feel shame, we carry that, and it never really goes away. Like, unless unless we become aware of it, or we maybe do some therapy for it. But it's ultimately like, this isn't just about going in. For me, it isn't just about going into schools and being, or even on Instagram and being like, love yourself, babe. It's not like that. That's often what I see nowadays, and I get really frustrated by it. It's partially one of the reasons I've stopped posting as much as I have, because I just find the space too like pink and glittery. And again, nothing wrong with those things. And I genuinely like some of those things are accessible entry points to girls. Like, and I'm, you know, if they've just discovered it, it kind of brings them in. And I don't mind that. Like, I'm not criticizing it. I just feel like it's not enough. It doesn't get down to the crux and the root of this really systemic problem that we have. And it doesn't, and it's not just about love yourself. It is about, if you feel shame in yourself, you will allow people to treat you badly, and you will make choices in life that will further your trauma and anxieties because you feel like you are not worthy. So that's where I feel like I have to step in, you know, and do these presentations, these lectures for young girls to say to them, look, right now you are at a crucial formative point in your life where you're going to learn a lot of things about your body and who you are. And you will carry that into your teens, and you will carry that into your 20s, and then eventually adulthood. And like, I want you to know that your body is a powerful thing, and you have to protect it. Mm-hmm. You have to protect it from messages that, and there are going to be lots of them. There are going to be boys that tell you your ass is too fat. There are going to be billboards that tell you that you look like the Michelin Man unless you look like this model here. There is going to be a lot of it. And I want to arm you now with the information that you need to basically, you know, you might see it, you might feel it, but then you'll step back and go, I am still worthy. I am still of value, even though I don't look like that. And that boy that said my ass was fat, okay, that hurt. That did hurt. But now I know I'm not going to fuck that guy. Yeah. Rather than, I should probably fuck that guy because he's just told me my ass is fat and no one else is going to love me. I'm lucky enough that he's here right now. Mm-hmm. So you see what I'm saying? It's about giving them these messages that, like, they are worthy and that they are going to make mistakes, and that, you know, it's a hard journey, but at the same time, like, they deserve better. And I want to teach them messages of self-love that are not just like,
love yourself. Yeah.
More than that, because genuinely shame is one of the most intoxicating things. And I really hate it because I felt it like my whole life, and I don't want other people to feel it because it has caused me to make decisions about myself or decisions for myself that were not conducive to creating a healthy and positive environment for me. And it's about putting your worthiness and it's about putting you at the top.
Yeah.
In terms of like, who is the most important person? It's always you. You're number one. And after that, of course, your network is important too. Your dad, your family, your friends, of course, those people are important. You need, I love them. But it's about teaching girls, like, you need you. You can be everything to yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's that. That's why I want to go into education, because I think this is so much more than just posting a meme.
Yeah.
This is much more important than that.
It would be so amazing, like, if we have more people like you in schools at the age where you feel like you need that person telling you. I would have loved to have heard that when I was 12. I would have needed that. My life probably would have been a lot different, and I probably would have made a lot of different choices and decisions. So if it is there from an earlier age, when we just go on our own personal journey with it, imagine how many people it could affect.
I think the crucial thing is age.
Yeah.
And, I've had a previous guest, a friend of mine, Paul Hannaford, and he works with drugs and gangs and knife crime and that. And he got called in. He went to your school, didn't he? I've known him a long time. It's a wonderful work he does. But the schools were saying, we've got trouble with our 16-year-olds. They're all, we need you to talk to them about drugs and that. He said, no, I've got to talk to your 11-year-olds or your 10-year-olds or your 9-year-olds.
Yeah.
Because if I talk to them, then if I talk to the other guys now, they've already got a problem. If I talk to them at that age, maybe we can prevent rather than cure. Because you never want to cure. You cure a little bit, you won't cure all of it. But if you get in at a lower age, and that's what's crucial for what you do, and you could do that. Anyone, all of you could do that, because that's the thing. The key is going in and adjusting those young minds in the right way and preparing them. You know, it's crucial. It made me near to tears what you just said.
Yeah.
That people are, you know, and I've seen it. I've seen it so much. And it's preparing them for life, which they're not getting.
Yeah. You gotta give people the tools they need at a young age in order to like make better decisions as adults. Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, like, it's really messed up, because the thing about beauty and diet industry is that it's all about profit. Like, it's all about profit, and like, it's all about getting people to consume. And then the irony is that as you get older, people will tell you that all of the choices you make, like, that ultimately, like, are your downfall, like, completely your fault. Like, you are the master of your own destiny, and that is true. But also, it's like, it's really like gaslighty, and like the society is very, it gaslights people into believing that like all of the outcomes of their lives are completely down to them, and that there was no external influences. And like I see people making all the like decisions all the time that affect them like in such like negative ways. And I get DMs every single day from women who are just so like, honestly, like it gets me so emotional. They're so fucking desperate.
Yeah.
Desperate, because this isn't just like, I want to be thin, and it's not like that. It's like, what they're saying is, they're not saying I want to be thin. They're saying I don't feel loved. I don't feel like anyone. I don't feel like I'm ever going to be accepted and loved for who I am because I have fat on my belly.
Yeah.
And then I did this video once. I say once. It was like last month, Jess. I did this video where I said to people like, it's like, confident women, like, how are you confident? And I was like, I think about like space, you know, when you're a human. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
I think about space, like there was a Carl Sagan did a brilliant speech. I don't know if you know Carl Sagan. Did a brilliant speech where he said, like, it was a picture. I mean, you've heard it, so I'll explain it for you. There was a picture of the vast cosmos, the blackness of space. And then there was this ray of light, and it was, and then on the ray of light there was like a pixel, but you could just about see it. And he was like, right there, that's Earth, right there. All the bloodshed, all the wars, every president, every king and emperor has lived on that tiny dot in the vast cosmos of space. And like, it just put all of my life, all of my feelings about human life into perspective. Because in that pixel has existed for like 65 billion years, and I'm worried about my fucking back fat.
Literally, so true.
I'm worried about my fucking bingo wings, which are actually just arms with extra fat, by the way. Bingo wings don't exist. And it's just like, it makes you think like, I've got 80 years, maybe 100 if I'm super lucky or super unlucky. And I'm not going to wait. Why the fuck am I wasting my time being worried about this thing? Why am I worried about my fucking cellulite on the backs of my thighs? Like, how can I be when I am literally when you look outside, the world seems like a big place, but actually, in comparison to the universe, it's not very big, and we don't have a lot of time. So can we stop worrying about these things? Can we stop wasting what little, like, you know, time and energy we have on like the dimples on my ass and the spots around my butt?
So true. That could change lives. Looking at it like that could.
I've just realised that we're way over.
I could talk for hours.
I'm so sorry, Jess, because I know that, you know, you've been really generous with your time now. But I just think it tells us that we've got to have a part 2 at some point.
Yeah, episode 2.
Episode 2's coming.
Yeah.
I would love to do a part 2. And honestly, like, I genuinely, like, I've had a really nice time. So I'm just, I know what you mean. It's like, it's this is my dream chat. I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't really, whenever someone asks me to do a podcast, I get a bit nervy because podcasts are like, obviously I edit a lot of what I do and put it online, like as in like in terms of films, you know, I cut bits, you know, but like podcasts are all, it's a constant stream. And, you know, I often get very like, oh, I don't know if I'm very good on podcasts. What if I say the wrong thing? But it's never as scary as I think it is. No.
If you ever do one of your talks, I would love to come as well, by the way. If you do.
Yeah. I can set that up. Well, I'm doing a talk on the 6th of March for the Warwick Women's Summit.
Okay.
I actually have yet to decide on a subject. Hopefully they don't listen to this. No, they will. Like, hopefully not. Oh God, what if they did? But because I'm supposed to have decided on the subject by now and started writing. It's next Saturday, so I'm a bit like. But maybe I could talk about, I don't know. Maybe I could talk about this, like changing the world. Maybe I'll do like a provocative title, like changing the world through self-love. But then actually be like, this is what we got to do. We got to get out. We've got to get the message out to the youngins. We've got to make a revolution. You know, just completely like do something a little bit more because I need to sort it out straight away. I mean, I told you about it, Stuart, didn't I? Because I'm like writing this thing, and I'm like, oh, it would be nice to have a podcast to actually give me a break from the writing. So feel free to come to that if you'd like. That's a free event. So
okay, cool.
6th of March at, I want to say 12:20, but I can send you the deets if you DM me. I can send you the deets if you DM me, girl.
Okay, cool. I've got you.
Well, thank you.
Yes, thanks.
You've really made this special for me, and thank you because you know I fucking love what you do.
Yeah.
And you've made it really special today. It's just over 5 years ago, I did something that changed my life. What it did, more than I could have ever realised, it helped me. I have met some absolutely amazing people. Some of the people that work in some of these places, many of them are volunteers, but some of them, it is their job. This is more than a job. This is a calling.